Hey guys, this week we're going to be looking at Hasegawa's 1/48 scale F-8E kit and markings for Shin Kazama from the series 80, Area 88. This is a kit I've been sort of looking forward to reviewing since I heard it was announced. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with the clear parts this time simply because they're the first on top. So overall, casting on the parts are very nice. Fortunately, there are no mold lines in the clear, so you don't have to worry about cleaning that up. Overall, very nicely done. Detailing on the frame parts is more than adequate and just the right highline, so they did a great job there. Get this back in so it stays nice and protected. Continuing on, we've got our landing gear as well as one of the stability fins and one of the engine air inlets. Overall, the detailing on the main gear is alright. Does seem a little overscale and overall bulgy a little. I'm trying to think of the best word to describe this, but it feels fatter than it should be. It doesn't have the fine detailing you would normally expect from Hasegawa. Cockpit panel is passable though, which is also included on this particular tree. I'll try the best I can to get it to show up. But out of the box, it should be more than sufficient for most people. Obviously, going aftermarket is a possibility, but out of the gate, it's like I said, it should be fine. Other detail parts, including this sprue, include various actuators and little details for the landing gear. We also have one of our main gear wheels, which is pretty nice overall. Not a whole lot there. We also got some weapon rails. Continuing on, kit includes a set of Zuni rockets for the Chica launchers. Something which, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I don't recall ever seeing that being used in this configuration, either in real life or in the series. If someone wants to correct me on that, please do so in the comments. Like I said, you got two sets on this sprue, and again another mirror part off the other sprue. And I'll go ahead and also just get it out of the way. Have a second pair of Zuni rocket launchers. Continuing on, we've got our flaps and leading edge parts. Your basic two-part setup. Overall should come together fairly easy without issue. Detailing is quite nice. Typical Hasegawa quality. I'll talk a little more once we get to the fuselage halves. Moving on, we got our ejection seat, and this is where I believe Hasegawa really dropped the ball. Is the detailing on the seat is pretty bad. All the details are overscaled and just look really fat. And I honestly think they could have done a lot better in that regards. So if you have or plan to, I would say this would be where you might want to get an aftermarket ejection seat and swap it in. Do include a single seat pilot figure, so that does provide some options. We also got our gear door bays. Now this is one area where Hasegawa also, I don't know what happened. This could just be my particular copy, but the backside of all of these parts are riddled with ejector pin marks, and unfortunately some of them are in detail areas that it's going to be very difficult to clean up. I'm trying to find a really good example, at least on this screw, like such as right here on these smaller door bays, or a prime example. Yeah, as well as in here. Again, I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but that is an almost unforgivable mistake on Hasegawa's part, is a lot of these parts suffer from that. So moving on from there, we've got our wing weapon station and our chin weapon stations as well. Fortunately, they don't suffer from the same issue as the gear door parts with the ejector pins. So thankfully, those will be able to not need the same level of cleaning. Okay, moving on. Next up, we've got our two fuselage halves. This is where you can really start to see the Hasegawa level of detailing on all the fine, crisp panel lining and attention to detail there. Now, one problem this kit does have is it does have a two-part inlet, so cleaning that up to get it seamless will take a fair amount of effort and a decent amount of work. The exhaust pipe is alright. Once you obviously close it up, it's not going to be super seen, but the detailing in the pedal area is actually quite nice out of the box. That's something you really don't see quite as often on jet kits. Typically, if you really want nice detailing, you have to go aftermarket. So having that out of the gate is nice. Now, another part where we see that the ejector pin issue is here on this centerpiece that go for the main gear bay. You can hopefully see several ejector pin markings right in the detail areas, which are basically going to be impossible to clean up. And you also see it here on the nose gear bay, and also to some degree on this part of the air inlet. Fortunately, a lot of this is going to be closed up, and if you're cleaning up the seam lines anyway, it's going to get patched anyway. So it's not as big an issue, but still, I mean, I'm really shocked on how low quality on this kit. Next up, we've got our cockpit tub. Here, much like I said earlier for the ejection seat, the detailing is pretty poor, and if you're used to Hasegawa's typical level of quality, it's a little alarming. Again, I would say this is another go ahead, just splurge and get the aftermarket set. It save you a lot of headache. Now, and when I first glanced at this kit, I thought this was the main gear bay. In fact, it's actually the upper sort of bay for the wing tilt. It's pretty basic, not a whole lot of detailing there, but depending on how you plan to build the kit, it's either redundant or you're not really going to care too much about it since you're not super going to be able to see it. Here we have our front and back panels for the main gear bay as well as the upper part. Detailing is, again, sparse. It seems like, at least for here, that they chose to not really do a whole lot of detailing and expect you to sort of pick up the slack. Last up, we have our wing halves, both top and bottom. You do have some detailing here on the underside in that center area, which potentially could be seen. But again, if you're doing it with the wings down, it's not really that important. We also have our two stabs. Now, here is another area where you can see, hopefully, try to get an idea of just how bad the ejector pinning is, even though this area you'll never see. I'm just sort of trying to highlight just how excessive it is. and hopefully it'll come out on camera so you have a better idea of what I've been talking about. But overall, they did a passable job here. You also get a couple of sets of polycaps for various parts, but there's not a whole lot you really need to worry about there. Excuse me. Moving on, we have our decal sheet. Here, we definitely see typical Hasegawa quality, very crisp, very well done decals. You're given 3 different sets for the tail insignia for Shin's jet. Now, I did a little back looking just to make sure to some degree I was getting this right, but I do believe we've got one for the OVA. I want to say the manga, and I also want to say UN Squadron, as in the series that came out in early 2000s, tail detail was white. And I'm actually a little surprised they didn't include that as well on this kit, as I know about that same time frame they had another F-8 kit come out for that series, and it did have that. So I don't understand why they kind of either just included it on this sheet or included it just as a small little separate sheet. So let's move on to the instructions. Now, this is where you do get some idea that this kit does have a couple complicated areas, mostly in this section, but after that it pretty mellows out. They do, fortunately, provide a lot of clarifications, what to use with what, so that does make building this kit a lot easier. But overall, with the exception of that first section, you can pretty much build it straightforward. Moving on to the painting instructions, this is where I think they dropped the ball big time, is that they do not include instructions on which of the insignias to use for which version. They just give you blank slate. And even on box art, they do that, which to me is a little shocking. You would think you'd want to, include something like that so that people can, figure out which one to use. Beyond that, you're given 2 paint schemes available, one for Shin and one for another character from the series. Overall, it's mostly just a tricolor scheme, white, gray, and then the personal color either for Shin, blue, and the other guy, I believe, where does it mention it? 315. I want to say that's another gray color. I don't recall exactly offhand, but overall it's not too complicated. You're not going to be dealing with a whole lot of confusing camouflage markings to do. Only thing to watch out for is to make sure you mask off the flaps and the various silver leading edge parts, which will take a little time and some careful masking, but overall not too much to it. So overall, this kit has some flaws, but it's still a Hasegawa kit, so the bones at least are good. Obviously, if you want to really do it right, you're going to have to go aftermarket on this one just because of the glaring issues. And if you're a fan of Area 8, right now it's the only kit available that at least comes with some markings. But them not including, instructions on which to use for which version is really glaring in my mind. And also not including the 2000s series decals, and which, granted, if you probably scan those decals in and create your own mask that way, you can do. It's a little disappointing in that regard. So overall, it's one to pick up if you're a fan of the series, but other than that, I would say pass. I mean, unless you're looking to find an F-8 kit and this happens to be the only one available in your area. But other than that, good kit, but does have a decent amount of flaws. So that was a look at Hasegawa's 1/48th scale F-8E and markings for Shin Kazama from Series Area 88. Until next time.